November 5, 1500. Columbus arrived at Cadiz in fetters, when the king and queen, ashamed of the orders they had given, commanded him to be released. Notwithstanding the apologies of his sovereigns, Columbus never forgot this ignominy. He preserved his fetters, hung them up in his apartment, and ordered them to be buried with him. 1548. There fell in Thuringia what is described as a ball of fire, which was attended with a great noise, and a reddish substance like coagulated blood was afterwards found on the ground. 1605. Gunpowder plot discovered. A conspiracy for blowing up the English Parliament, headed by Catesby. In the cellar was found 40 barrels of powder and Guy Fawkes. 1607. The famous grace Non Nobis Domini, composed by Bird, was first sung, on the second anniversary of the Gunpowder plot. 1612. Prince Henry died, aged 19. His funeral expenses were £16,016, yet his father, King James, would allow no mourning for him. 1630. John Kepler, a celebrated German astronomer, died. His genius and discoveries have been highly commended, but he maintained some very peculiar notions. Among others, that the globe is a huge animal, which breathes out the winds through the holes in the mountains, as through its mouth and nostrils. 1635. Thomas Parr, an English peasant, died at the age of 152. His habits were extremely temperate, and it is supposed that his death was hastened by a change of diet. James Bowles died in England in 1656, at the same age. 1678. John Baptist Nenny, a Venetian nobleman and ambassador, died. He wrote a history of Venice, and an account of his embassy to France. 1690. Thomas Bartholin died, an eminent professor of law and history at Copenhagen. His 3 brothers were professors in the same university, and his sister, an excellent Danish poetess. 1702. The Earl of Marlborough taken by a French party, but not being known, on producing a French pass, he was suffered to escape. 1714. Bernardino Mazzini, an Italian physician, died at Padua, aged 81. Although blind, he discharged the duties of professor of medicine with great applause in the university. 1732. James Oglethorpe, with several colonists, embarked for Georgia, in America. 1757. Battle of Rossbach, a village in Prussian Saxony. A decisive victory obtained by Frederick the Great over the French and Austrians under Soubise. 1764. Charles Churchill, the celebrated English poet, died at Boulogne. 1774. The militia of Virginia, assembled at Fort Gower under Lord Dunmore, the royal governor, declared their determination to support their countryman, when called upon, and not the king, if he proceeded to execute the late obnoxious laws by force. 1780. Vasily Evdokimovich Atager, a Russian mathematician, died. He instructed Catherine II in the Russian language. 1782. The America, a 74-gun ship, built at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, by order of Congress, was launched. This was the first line of battleship ever built in America. 1798. Louis Galvani, an Italian philosopher, died at Bologna, celebrated as the discoverer of that kind of electricity called, after him, galvanism. See February 5, 1799. 1807. Maria Angelica Kaufmann, an eminent French painter, and Royal Academician in London, died at Rome. She is styled by the Germans, the painter of the soul. And her mental acquirements and moral conduct were no less distinguished than her talents as an artist. 1816. Gouverneur Morris, an American statesman and orator, died at his seat of Morrisania, near New York. 1817. Charlotte Augusta, wife of Prince Leopold of Coburg, and daughter of George IV of England and Queen Caroline, died. The domestic life of the two former is held to be a pattern, not so the latter. 1831. Philip Van Cortlandt, an officer of the Revolutionary War, died at New York, aged 82. 1839. The British warships Volage and Hyacinth, proceeding to Chumphey in violation of the Chinese proclamation, were approached by 29 Chinese war junks, which they attacked. 6 of the junks were sunk or blown up, and upwards of 500 men killed. The English suffered no injury. This was the beginning of the Chinese War. 1840. George R. T. Hughes, one of the persons who assisted in throwing the tea overboard in Boston Harbor in the beginning of the Revolution, died at German Flats, aged 106. 1854. George Cathcart, an eminent British general, killed at the Battle of Inkerman, aged 60. 1854. Charles Campbell, an eminent English comedian, died at London, aged 74, the last surviving brother of this distinguished family. 1854. Battle of Inkerman, in which 50,000 Russians engaged 14,000 British and French. Russians lost about 9,000 besides prisoners. Allies lost about 4,000. 1854. By the cholera which prevailed this season, the number of deaths up to this day were in New York, 2,425. In Philadelphia, 575. In Boston, 255. In Pittsburgh, 600. 1855. Battle at the River Inga. Omar Pasha with 20,000 Turks defeated 10,000 Russians.